Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm really excited to bring you today's video. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get started. On the morning of December 7th, 2007, Alcides Moreno and his brother Edgar Moreno's day began like any other workday. They left their home in New Jersey early in the morning and set out toward New York, with its skyline full of skyscrapers. Alcides and Edgar had been making a living cleaning windows for years. The two brothers were well known for their experience and disciplined work ethic, and they skillfully used the suspended platforms that were used to clean the exteriors of skyscrapers. That day, they were scheduled to work at one of New York's famous skyscrapers, the Solo Tower. With its 47 floors and striking modern glass facade, the building required professional teams to clean its windows, which had accumulated dirt over time. For Alcides and Edgar, this job was just another routine task, no different from the many they had done before. They put on their work uniforms and checked their safety equipment in the early hours of the morning. They reviewed the ropes, straps, and connection points of the platform. Everything seemed in order. Then they climbed onto the metal cleaning platform, which was connected to a mechanical crane system on the building's roof. The platform, which could move up and down the side of the building, was designed to make it easier for window cleaners to work. The two brothers carefully checked the platform's controls and began descending slowly down the side of the skyscraper. The large glass windows of the Solo Tower sparkled in the morning sun. Below, New York's busy streets stretched out, with taxis, pedestrians, and skyscrapers giving a glimpse into the city's bustling life. Alcides and Edgar carefully positioned their platform and began cleaning the windows. Using soapy water and squeegees, they made the large glass panes shine, drawing on their years of experience. One cleaned the windows at the top, while the other worked on the ones below. The brothers worked quickly and meticulously while joking with each other and occasionally glancing at the view below. But while everything seemed normal, a great danger was looming that neither of them could see. A malfunction was about to occur in the mechanical system to which the platform was attached, and within minutes, an event would unfold that would change their lives forever. While Alcides and Edgar continued working on the exterior of the Solo Tower, a subtle malfunction occurred in the mechanical system to which the platform was attached. Everything seemed fine, but there was an unseen weakness in the steel cables and winch system. Suddenly, the support mechanism that carried the platform failed unexpectedly. The first sign was a slight shake of the platform. Alcides knew that. These small tremors sometimes happened, but this time it was different. Within a few seconds, the tremors became more intense. The metallic creaking noises indicated that the ropes were being stretched unusually. At that moment, a terrifying cracking sound was heard. The platform suddenly tilted and began to fall rapidly. The two brothers tried to hold on to the side of the building, but the metal structure was slippery and out of control. From a height of about 150 meters, almost from the top of the 47th floor, the platform and everything on it were falling at a deadly speed. Edgar, not understanding what had happened, slid off the platform and fell into the void. No safety measures could protect him at that moment. His fall lasted only a few seconds, but those few seconds felt like an eternity. Sadly, when Edgar hit the ground, he lost his life. Alcides, however, was still holding on to part of the platform. But the heavy metal structure was continuing to break apart and fall rapidly. Instinctively, Alcides clung tightly to the platform. In his subconscious, he knew that his only option was to try to slow the fall as much as possible. During the fall, the platform hit the building, slowing its descent. But the impacts caused severe damage to Alcides' body. His spine, ribs, and legs suffered heavy blows. Finally, the platform smashed into the ground in front of the Solo Tower. Alcides lay, motionless on the ground, but something unexpected happened. He was still breathing. In the middle of the morning, a great disaster unfolded in front of a skyscraper in New York. The metal cleaning platform, which had detached from the 47th floor of the Solo Tower, plummeted 150 meters to the ground with the two workers. Screams, the sound of breaking glass and the terrifying noise of metal pieces crashing into the building's facade echoed through the streets. Passers-by on the sidewalk, witnessing this incredible accident, were in shock. Witnesses quickly grabbed their phones and called 911. Within minutes, police, fire, and medical teams arrived at the scene. They were prepared for the worst. Surviving a fall from such a height seemed impossible. However, when the rescue teams moved through the debris, they couldn't believe their eyes. Alcides Moreno was still alive. It was noticed that Alcides, lying motionless on the ground, was still breathing. He was severely injured, but his survival was a medical miracle. Surviving such a fall seemed impossible, but Alcides was still alive. Experts later considered that several key factors might have contributed to Alcides' survival. Clinging to the platform, Alcides holding tightly onto the platform during the fall might have slowed his speed somewhat. Air resistance and the platform's impact. The platform hitting the building's facade several times could have reduced the speed of the fall, preventing Alcides from hitting the concrete directly. Body position. Alcides might have fallen in a position that increased his chances of survival. Luck. Despite all scientific explanations, an incredible factor of luck also played a role in this event. Paramedics quickly checked Alcides' pulse and breathing. His heartbeat was irregular, and his body was filled with serious fractures and internal injuries, but he was still fighting. The teams quickly placed Alcides on a stretcher and rushed him to Bellevue Hospital. This hospital was one of the best trauma centers in New York, and the doctors were ready to mobilize all resources to save his life. That day, Alcides Moreno became the hero of an event that would go down in medical history. Despite falling from the 47th floor, he was still breathing. However, a tough battle lay ahead. Would he survive? When Alcides Moreno was placed on the stretcher in front of the Solo Tower, the medical teams knew his survival was a miracle, but their struggle was just beginning. He was perhaps the first person in history to survive a fall from a 47-story building, but his body was shattered. With the sound of ambulance sirens, Alcides was quickly rushed to Bellevue Hospital in New York. This hospital was known for treating severe trauma cases, but even the doctors, upon seeing his condition, thought survival was nearly impossible. His body was filled with numerous fractures and severe internal injuries. His spine was broken, with a risk of paralysis. His ribs were shattered, causing damage to his lungs. His legs and arms were broken in several places. His internal organs were severely damaged, and the bleeding could not be stopped. There were signs of brain trauma, and he was unconscious. The doctors believed his condition was so critical that they told his family to prepare for the worst. His survival depended on hours, even minutes. As soon as Alcides arrived at the hospital, he was immediately taken into surgery. During the first few hours, doctors worked tirelessly to stop his internal bleeding. A significant portion of his organs had been damaged, and his body was rapidly weakening due to blood loss. Over the next few days, Alcides underwent a total of 16 major surgeries. Each surgery was part of his struggle to cling to life. His internal organs were repaired and the bleeding was stopped. The fractures in his spine and ribs were stabilized. Metal plates were inserted into his legs and arms. Due to the damage to his lungs, respiratory support was provided. Doctors began an intensive treatment process to bring him back to life. However, Alcides remained in a coma for weeks. While the hospital team provided him with the best treatment, his family and friends anxiously awaited any good news. His wife, Rosario, never left the hospital. She was praying for Alcides to come back to life. Doctors were saying that his chances of recovery were very low and that he might experience permanent loss of consciousness due to brain damage. The risk of paralysis was very high, and even in the best-case scenario, it was believed that he would live a life dependent on a bed. But Alcides Moreno was not willing to leave this world easily. He was fighting an incredible battle for survival. And in an unexpected moment when everyone had thought hope was lost, he opened his eyes. After weeks of intensive care, Alcides Moreno was still alive. While doctors had considered his survival impossible, Alcides began to show signs of recovery, slowly but steadily. Having been in a coma for weeks after the accident, his body was struggling to recover from the immense trauma. Due to the fractures in his spine, shattered ribs, internal organ damage, and brain trauma, doctors thought he would either never regain consciousness or remain paralyzed. However, when Alcides opened his eyes, it was a real miracle for the doctors and his family. Even after opening his eyes, Alcides' consciousness didn't fully return right away. His body had become extremely weak, and his muscles had atrophied from lack of movement. He couldn't speak, move, and could only look around with his eyes. However, his wife Rosario and the doctors could see that he was still fighting. After spending weeks in intensive care, Alcides was put on a special rehabilitation program. The process ahead would not be easy. Before he could regain his mobility, he first needed to recover his body's basic functions. He started physical therapy to strengthen his muscles. He underwent speech therapy to prevent losing his ability to speak. Due to the damage to his lungs, he received respiratory therapy for a long time. At first, even the smallest movements were incredibly difficult. Moving his fingers or turning his head took great effort. But Alcides refused to give up. Every day, step by step, he began regaining control over his body. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Alcides first learned to use his hands. Then he began raising his arms. Later, something that doctors had said was impossible happened. Alcides moved his legs. This was truly a medical miracle for the doctors. Alcides' condition made a huge impact in the medical world. The fact that a person who fell from the 47th floor not only survived but also regained the ability to walk seemed unbelievable. The physical therapy process was incredibly painful. His broken legs and spine had remained immobile for a long time, so his muscles had weakened significantly. In order to walk again, special walking assistive devices were used. Water therapy was implemented to strengthen his muscles. Standing training exercises were conducted. At first, he could only stand for a few seconds, but after a few weeks, he slowly started taking steps. First a few steps, then a little more. After months of rehabilitation, Alcides Moreno succeeded in walking. His achievement was not only a physical recovery but also a testament to the incredible power of the human will. Doctors considered Alcides' recovery to be a historic event in medical history, and they called him a walking miracle. Alcides was determined to make the best of the second chance he had been given. However, the real question was, how would he continue his life after the accident? Alcides Moreno's survival was a turning point in the medical world. Falling from the 47th floor and surviving, then being able to walk again, was a miracle that even doctors and scientists struggled to explain. His story was not just one of survival, but proof of the incredible resilience of the human spirit and body. He went through years of recovery after the accident. His physical injuries healed over time, but one of his biggest struggles was overcoming the mental and emotional trauma. Although physically recovered, the horrific event had left deep scars in Alcides' mind. He had faced death up close for days. After the accident, at first, even looking at tall buildings was difficult for him. When he got close to skyscrapers, he felt like he was reliving the moment of the accident. Due to his psychological trauma, he suffered from sleep problems for a long time and frequently woke up from nightmares. However, Alcides did not give up on this battle either. He received psychological support and, with the help of his family, began to strengthen mentally as well. He was no longer just a man fighting to hold on to life physically, but also mentally. Alcides was aware that he had been given a second chance at life. Doctors had told him he wouldn't survive, and even if he did, he would never walk again. But he defied all those possibilities. Within a few years, he regained much of his physical health and began living a normal life with his family. He would never return to his old profession after the accident. Cleaning skyscraper windows was no longer possible for him. However, this was not a loss for him, but a new beginning. In interviews with the press, he spoke about how his perspective on life had completely changed. He now valued every moment of life and saw every breath as a gift. Before the accident, I was just an ordinary worker. I worked, I came home, my life was always the same. But now I know that every day, every second is precious. I came back from the edge of death, and now I want to live every moment to the fullest. Alcides Moreno's story has gone down in medical history as one of the most incredible survival stories. Medical experts developed theories to explain how he survived, but there was still no definitive answer. Perhaps it was just a pure miracle. This event became one of the most impressive cases that showed how resilient the human body can be and how the survival instinct can sometimes accomplish the impossible. Alcides Moreno was now a man who viewed life with completely different eyes. Every day he lived was a new miracle for him.